Mr. Tory, and the final question I have is also as a voter, I'm concerned is people talking about your character and leadership. And there is two things that I've been watching you for a long, long time. And one, you've been a great talk show host. But we do listen to your interview, we all feel personally, including a few of my friends, that you are not tough enough to the people when you have tough decision or tough question to do. This is one. Another thing is, when you were the opposition leader, you called ethnic media to the Queen's Park that when the provincial Liberal has a scandal of slush fund, the former Michael Cole, Minister of Immigration, and there is tons of media pounding the small organization embedded in the ethnic community. For example, CPAC of the Chinese community, who only got 200,000 funding, but there is another group. That's when we ask you, Jewish group. They are not top 10 of immigration group. Got $32 million to do a project in the name of immigrant. And at that time, we ask you why you don't pounding the Liberal, because you are the opposition leader. Your job is to watch our money. And you say, oh, Jewish group had a great plan. That caused my big concern. When we have a big conflict of interest, and those people are your friends, who support you, are you going to stand tough, stand on my behalf to say, this is the direction I'm going to go. I'm going to punish you. I go to the boxing ring. I'm not going to when my opponent sleep, I'm not going to punish him. I'm going to give them a hand. What are you going to do?
Well, let me address both of those. I don't think I've ever been asked about my performance as a talk show host before, and I never thought when I was going to law school I would end up as a talk show host.
Yeah, we'll listen to you.
But I will say this. I tried to be a balanced talk show host, and I was rewarded with a very big audience of people who appreciated the fact that I didn't try to pound people out. What I did was I tried to inform people. I tried to present both sides of the story by having people on who represented both sides of the story. I would express my opinion, but do it in a rational, balanced kind of way. And I think that's precisely why I'm going to make a good mayor for Toronto, because I have my own point of view on many things, but I also know that I'm working with 44 councillors from across the city, from all different backgrounds, working with other governments of all different parties, and that my job is to get things done for the people. And so just as I was successful as a talk show host because I was balanced and I was rational, although I had a point of view, I think that same temperament, that same personality is going to work well at City Council. With respect to the slush fund, you are perhaps mistaken in what my issue was at that time. It had nothing to do with the groups that were applying for or getting money. It had everything to do with the process. And in the case of groups that put forward sound business plans, well documented, to get money from the government, I had no issue. But in the case of groups that suddenly got, as all the indications proved, money without ever putting in an application, I had a problem with that, because there was no paperwork, no examination of criteria for that. And in fact, the minister ended up resigning over that because it was proven that there was no paperwork and there was no proper process followed. That was my only concern about that. It had nothing to do with the different groups and where they were from or who they were. And I would say at the City Hall, I'll be exactly the same way. People have to start following process more. We have to have greater accountability at City Hall. I know in this community in particular, people are very careful with money. They are people who are very good managers themselves of their business and personal money, and they want to see their leaders, and starting with their mayor, showing an example in terms of how we make every dollar get spent the best way possible, so that people don't have to face steadily rising taxes on their homes or on their businesses, and that's the kind of mayor I intend to be.
Can I have another question?
Joseph.
Okay. Yeah, John, if you get elected, will Kathleen Wynne be the first person to meet?
That's a very good question. I expect that I would meet with a variety of people in the first week or so, and I think it would have to include as many members of the City Council as I could. I would intend to meet with the current mayor and deputy mayor because they're people that are presently in charge of the city's affairs, and certainly Premier Wynne. I know she's got some trips planned and so forth, including to China. I would want to meet her as soon as possible, and indeed the Prime Minister as well. But you organize these things as best you can. But I think the City Council, the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, the Premier and Prime Minister are obviously among the people you'd want to meet as early as you could, just to talk about getting results for people and getting started on that job.
And what issue you bring to Catherine Wing?
Well, I think with the Premier, it's I think an issue we both share as being quite urgent for the GTA and for the City of Toronto, and that's transit and transportation. I don't think there's any question but that together we have to do everything we can to move forward to make the traffic better, to give people more transit options, and to just get on with that. There's been far too much time spent debating and redebating and deciding and redeciding things, and I think people want to get on with getting some transit built and getting the traffic to be in much better shape than it is today.
Thank you.